Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of Fantasy Baseball Advice with host Alec Pecano. And let's get to it. My player of the weekend for fantasy baseball is Elly Della Cruz from the Cincinnati Reds. He went 5 for 14 with 4 runs scored, a home run, 1 walk, and 3 stolen bases over the weekend. The next thing I'm going to talk about is some news. The first bit of news is that the Orioles are promoting infield prospect Jordan Westburg to the big leagues. He's starting at shortstop tonight, I believe, and batting sixth, I want to say. He had a really good year in the minors. He's not rostered in a lot of leagues. If you need help in the infield at shortstop, he's going to play a lot of shortstop, a lot of third base, and a lot of outfield. So if you need help in any of those areas, I would recommend picking him up. The next bit of news I'm going to talk about is Cody Bellinger. He left Saturday's game against Cardinals early due to being under the weather and did not play on Sunday. And he will probably be back in the lineup on Tuesday when the Cubs resume action. Hold up. I made a little error. Give me a couple seconds to fix that error. It's part 1. The next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to give you 2 waiver wire hitters and 3 pitchers that you should look at picking up. Correction. 2 hitters and 2 pitchers to pick up in your fantasy baseball leagues. The first one we're going to start with is Eury Perez. He is 63.2% rostered. And over his last 2 starts, he's given up 7 hits, 0 earned runs allowed, walked 1 batter, struck out 18. I would also recommend, I have a couple dynasty leagues I'm in. If you're doing dynasty, I would recommend picking him up and placing him on your keeper list for the future because he's going to be a good asset in the future. The number 2 waiver wire hitter I'm going to talk about is Henry Davis. The Pirates, one of the Pirates' top prospects. He's a catcher / outfielder. They've been playing since he got called up, and he's 14% rostered. Since the Pirates called him up, he's been playing mostly the outfield. They said he will get some starts at catcher. But if you need help, he's good at hitting. His last 3 games. Last 3 games, he's gone 5 for 14 with a home run and a stolen base. And the number 3 guy is outfielder Jake Fraley from the Reds. 26.1% rostered. And I didn't tell you the threshold, but a guy has to be by my standards, a guy needs to be under 75% rostered in fantasy baseball. I do ESPN. In any league on ESPN or anywhere else, in order to be eligible for the waiver wire column section of this video. Back to Jake Fraley. So, Jake Fraley's 26.1% rostered. He does not play, as far as I've seen, he does not play against left-handed pitching. He only plays against righties. And the Reds have a deep outfield, but if you play the matchups and there's a bunch of righties and the Reds are playing a team that's going to throw out a bunch of righties against them, pick up Fraley, put him in your lineups, and see what happens. Number four for my waiver wire players to add part 1 is Braxton Garrett for the Marlins. 42% rostered. He is, I don't use this word for many people, but I've seen improvements from last year. Last year he had a stretch where he was really good, but he's taking it up a notch this year. He does not want to lose his spot in the rotation when the Marlins get Johnny Cueto back, Trevor Rogers, and Edward Cabrera. He wants to stick in the big leagues in their rotation. He is only 42% rostered, like I said. He's another guy I would recommend picking up and putting in your lineup if you need help with pitching. Please, please, please pick him up. He needs to be over 50% rostered by the next time I do this video. The next topic I'm going to talk about is Drop-O-Meter, which means a guy, if he's on this list, I'm going to give you 1 to 10 of how aggressive I would be at dropping him. The first guy I'm going to talk about is Louie Varland, a starting pitcher from the Twins. He struggled over his last few starts, giving up a lot of hits, giving up a lot of hard contact. I didn't get a chance before stream to look at his numbers, but I've heard from other people that do that analyze and look at the StatCast numbers and all that. He has been getting rocked. And I'm going to get to my Drop-O-Meter on him. It's going to be, I'm going to say 5.5. I have another waiver wire segment coming up. And if you have Louie Varland on your team and I talk about the next 4 guys in the next waiver wire segment, Louie Varland for me is a 5.5 on a Drop-O-Meter, which means if there's somebody else you want to pick up, you can drop them, but I think he can turn it around. And the next guy I'm going to talk about is, sorry, I didn't mean to hit my mic, is pitcher Bobby Miller, rookie pitcher Bobby Miller from the Dodgers. I have him on the Drop-O-Meter because his last 2 starts have not been good. But that doesn't mean he can't turn it around and stick around in the Dodgers rotation because they have all these injuries. Buehler's out. Gonsolin's out. No, Gonsolin's back, but Dustin May's out. Buehler's out. Your Julio Urias is out. But my Drop-O-Meter on him is a 4 because he's a rookie, and I think there's growth. There's spots for him to grow and get better. Now, here we go. Waiver wire hitters and pitchers, part 2. And let's get to it. The first waiver wire player I have in this segment is Royce Lewis. He's 10%, 10.6% rostered on ESPN in ESPN leagues. And he is third base and shortstop eligible. I recommend picking him up if you need stats. If you need consistent, a guy that's going to reach base and get you points. And he's kind of a platoon guy. He does not play against lefties. So if the Twins are facing a lefty, you can expect him to be on the bench. The number 2 guy, I talked about him the last time I did the waiver wire segment on one of my other videos. It is starting pitcher Brayan Bello from the Boston Red Sox. And he is still grossly under rostered. Grossly. He's only 22.5% rostered. By the time I do my next video on fantasy baseball advice, again, in a couple weeks, he needs to be more rostered in points leagues, rotisserie leagues. I'm going to tell you why. Here's why. His last start, he introduced a curveball. And he threw it, I think it's 10% to 15% of the time. And he got a lot of whiffs on it. He's breaking out similarly. Let me rephrase that. He's breaking out in the same way that Braxton Garrett is. But Brayan Bello doesn't have to worry about losing his spot in the Red Sox rotation compared to Braxton Garrett. Bello has his spot solidified in the Red Sox rotation. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Andrew Abbott from the Cincinnati Reds, rookie pitcher on Cincinnati. And the reason I talk about him is he's been impressive in his first couple big league starts. The last one he did give up a few runs, but he did not. This is very encouraging. He did not walk a batter. Did not walk anyone. And he's only 43.8% rostered. Please, again, this is for Dynasty. If you're in a Dynasty league, go add Andrew Abbott. By the time I do this video next week, the next one of these is going to be in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I'm going to do a fantasy baseball advice video. Please, by the next time I do this in 2 weeks, let's get Andrew Abbott to 55% rostered in every fantasy baseball league that anybody plays in. Please. And the last guy I'm going to talk about, waiver wire player number 4 for part 2, is Giants rookie catcher Patrick Bailey, who is he's very, very under rostered. 4.3% rostered. I wouldn't have talked about him if he never got called up, but he got called up by the Giants. And he's played basically every day, and they say the reason he's playing over Joey Bart is because of his defense. Joey Bart is in the minors. He's starting more games at catcher than Blake Sabol. If you need catching help, go pick up Patrick Bailey. by the next time I do this in 2 weeks, like I said, let's get him to 10 to 15% rostered in fantasy baseball. And that is it for the show. Thank you for coming out and taking part in the video. If you have any questions about fantasy baseball, please leave them in the comments, or my Instagram handle is in my description of my YouTube page. My homepage of my YouTube. Please leave your comments there if you have any questions. Thank you. I will be back in an hour with another stream.